Hello. So today we are going to be learning Likkutei Torah Vayikra Daf Yud Aleph. We are starting at the bottom of the first column where we are completing the biur of the Maimer the V'haya Lavanak Arachama, and the biur is called the Inyan Shivas Yimei HaMiluyim. So we're going to be finishing that biur. Then we're going to start the Maimer Lahavim Mashikasa B'Haggadah Matzah Zu Shanu Eichlim. And that's going to take us to the end of the first column of Daf Yud Beis. Now, this biur, so we offered one interpretation, but now in Eis Daled that we're starting with today, he's going to really offer a pretty fresh take that is mostly new. So the Shivas Yimei HaMiluyim are the 7 days of installation, the 7 days of empowerment, during which God empowers the Kaihanim. The Zohar explains that through the Shem and the Mishcha, it creates this unit of 7 days during which the Kaihanim are lifted up, and during which, in a sense, the whole world is lifted up to offer the world a taste of what life will be like when Mashiach comes. When Mashiach comes, we say that the V'haya Lavanak Arachama. So now the Alter Rebbe is going to offer a different framework for this. So he says that another way of explaining the words Miluyim is that the word Miluyim can refer to to filling Shemamleh וממשיך העור הסובב כל עלמין בממלא כל עלמין. That it's that the shivas the Miluyim is a reference to the drawing of Soveb into Mamala through Keser, because Keser has this unique quality of being a Matzah HaMechaber, in that it has both the qualities of the Matzil and the qualities of the Naatzla, right? Both the qualities that are in Seif and the qualities of creation. And this revelation, the revelation of Keser, is referred to as the Or Shivas Hayamim, the light of the 7 days. Now, to explain this, we know that there's a very common question, that in one place it says, השמים והארץ אני ממלא, that the heavens and the earth I fill, I meaning the Eibishter Mahusay V'atzmusay, but then in other places it says, ממלא כל הארץ כבודו, that his glory fills the earth. And his glory is universally a reference to a revelation of God, to a ray of God, to an emanation of God. And so the question, of course, is which one is it? Which perspective of God does creation get to experience? And the answer is that, of course, of course, it is the Eibishter himself. As Hashemayim v'Haaretz and Mamleh is, of course, the correct perspective. However, despite the fact that God fills all of creation, the nature of creation is such that we cannot experience him, that he's Kaddish u'Muvdal, that he is separate from us, and that we only experience a ray, a glimmer of him, and that is the kvodo. That is what the other pasuk is referring to when it says Mamleh kol haaretz kvodo. Now, the purpose of Torah mitzvahs is to unite these two perspectives, is to draw down Seviv, is to draw down this perspective of Ani, of God as he is himself, into the world. As we say, when Mashiach comes, that the world will be filled with this perspective of really knowing God, and that is accomplished through the mitzvahs. Now, the Shivas Yimei HaMiluyim, their function is to draw this maleh, to draw this filling into the world, to draw this to draw the ani, the ani maleh into the Mamleh kol haaretz kvodo. Now, the within the minutia of the example of Shivas Yimei HaMiluyim, right, to kind of hyper focus on the actual framework of the pasuk, the Alter Rebbe explains that that we say that the Eibishter is hamisnase miyamais olam, that that God is, or that Soveb is inherently higher, is inherently distant, is inherently removed. But and during the Shivas Yimei HaMiluyim, that hamisnase is brought into Yemais Olam, right? The transcendence of God becomes something that can be appreciated in midas of Atzilus. And so the Alter Rebbe explains that it's specifically through the Kaihanim, that the Kaihanim are recipients and representatives of Chesed, and through the training of the Kaihanim, the Kaihanim are the representatives of this revelation on earth, and they are able to do it through receiving the Shemen HaMishcha, which is the Or of the Shivas HaYamim, with the Zayin Tachtenim of Keser that we explained before, the emotive attributes of Keser that are drawn into the Kaihanim, into Chesed, and the Kaihanim then have the ability to serve as the conduit for this revelation. Now the Alter Rebbe in the Maimer, in the Fnim of the Maimer, the Alter Rebbe then brings many different Mar Mekaymis that he expects us to look up and examine. Each of which there's Mar Mekaymis both in Nigla and in Kabbalah that provide a far deeper understanding of the Maimer. Unfortunately, there's not enough time to go through all of them, but I'm just going to go through the last few, which are going to be that which Alter Rebbe is going to build on later. So the first one is that the pasuk says, "Ben Adam Ya'an Asher Amra Tzor Al Yerushalayim." Son of man, because Tyre has said about Yerushalayim, and so the Gemara in Pesachim explains that the success of Tzur, the success of Tyre, only happened when Yerushalayim was destroyed, and so the word used is amala, is that it was filled with this destruction, imala hacharava, that it became full from this destroyed city, that when kedusha can no longer serve this function of being maleh, it goes into klipa, right? That when Yerushalayim is destroyed, that function of imala, the function of miluyim, then goes to the city of evil. That the Eitz Chaim explains this Gemara by saying that Malchus of Atzilus is shining, but it's shining only as a single point. But the test spheres that are supposed to contribute to Malchus to Malchus, and there's supposed to be this heightened revelation that reflects all the spheres. But when the base of Mikdash is destroyed, the test spheres, instead of transmitting in a form of kedusha, they transmit in the form of klipa, and this builds up the city of Tzur. And we have a very similar Maimer Chazal that says that the Shaligalu Yisrael Ela Bereidiv Maleh, that the Jewish people could only have been chased out of the city, chased out of the Beis Hamikdash by a filled reidif, by a filled chaser. So and again, it's the same theme, that when we don't have the miloi, that when we aren't full, this filled quality is transferred to klipa. And in Avodas Hashem, the Alter Rebbe explains that this is somebody who's in a state where their whole being and all their 10 spheres, all their qualities are filled and are completely informed by Taivas, by the Nefesh Bahamas, and that they're completely and the way it's described in Kabbalah, paralleling our verse, is a binyan Esser spheres. That the entire personality, in all of its nuances and facets, is completely informed by klipa. And the Nefesh Elokis remains just a spark, which is Jewish faith. And the examples he gives is the emunah that Yidden had in Mitzrayim. That even though they were in Mitzrayim, they were betachas hakaptos, right? Even though in Mitzrayim they were at their lowest level, they still retained Jewish faith, And the other Maimer Chazal, the famous Maimer Chazal, that a Ganef, even while he's in the tunneling into somebody's house to steal from him, he davens to Hashem for success. That this Amunah is this Nekuda, this Jewish spark that is always retained, and this, but it's limited to a makif state. The way that it has to be drawn down is through das, and the goal is that we work to bring back that miloi to express and be mispashet our that amunah, that spark, into our seichel and midas once again. And when we fill our lives with holiness, automatically the nefesh Bahamas gets weakened, the taivas get weakened, because the nature of light is that it pushes away darkness, and this reverts back the imala hacharava, that the klipa became full from this destroyed city, and now the city will return to its state of shlemus. That when we fill our lives with light, klipa automatically fades away, like wax in front of a candle, the Alter Rebbe explains. And we find a similar theme when it's explained in Chazal, based on Sukkim, that when Mashiach comes, the kinor will have 10 strings, and so the word kinor can be broken up into ner chaf vav. The ner is the neshama, and chaf vav is shem havaya, is the gematria of shem havaya. That when Mashiach comes, we're going to have all 10 sfiros, all 10 qualities will be informed and will be inspired by shem havaya, by a gilui elokus. And we will return to this state of fulfillment, of being full, and this will happen not only in each individual, that each individual can attain this, but this is also a national issue and a universal issue. That when Mashiach comes, the Esher Spheres will all be entirely informed by Elokus, and it will lend a sense of permanence to all of reality, and a sense of permanence to the Gilui Elokus. And the phrase used is the pasuk Oyel Bal Yitzan, that the tent will not fall. Right? That through our avodah and through the coming of Mashiach, it's going to lend a sense of permanence to reality. Now, this was the goal of the Shivas Yimei Milui. The goal was to bring down the Yamale Kavod Havaya. It was to bring down a revelation of God in a way that will that brings a fullness back. When the Mishkan was dedicated, is to bring a Gilui Elokus that reflects a sense of fulfillment, a sense of fullness, where every part of reality is infused with this revelation. So we say about Mashiach that it's Mireiv Kol, that the Kala is going to be Mekabel from this level of Kol, which is the Ar Lavana to Ar Hachama, that the light of the moon is going to be like the light of the sun. The current status in which the moon is diminished is a reflection of the fact that the Tes Sfiros in Atzilus are not being revealed in Malchus. When Mashiach comes, when we reach this sense of permanence, when we reach the sense of Oyel Bal Yitzon, what the Ar Lavana is going to be is Ka'ar Hachama. Now, what is the nature of the Ar Hachama? The sun is constantly shining. The sun has a consistency to it, and that consistency is now going to exist within the moon as well. And me'enza, because what we're describing is Mashiach, but me'enza, something like this happened during the Shivas Yimei Miluyim, that they began to experience this a little bit in the Shivas Yimei Miluyim. And to describe this process further, to describe the Mashiach process further, we go back to this pasuk of V'haya Ar Lavana. So the pasuk ends with the words, That the Eibishter is going to cure the broken of his people, and the cut of their wounds he will heal. So what does this mean? That once again we are returning to this idea of the Eibishter filling and us returning to a state of fullness, and that is the quintessential quality of Mashiach. Now, to understand why we need to be filled, we have to understand how we got broken in the first place. So the pasuk says, "Kishtayim ra'es asa ami, Isi azvu," that there was two evils that my people have done. They abandoned me, makar mayim chayim, the source of living water, lachsev lahem bayres, to dig for themselves wells, bayres nishbarim, broken wells, asher layachlu hamayim, that water could not hold. Now these broken wells, these bayres nishbarim, are the opposite of mayim chayim. That's what's obvious from the pasuk. And what this refers to is connecting ourselves to Taivas Gashmim, which are bayres nishbarim, because Taivas Gashmim come from Shviras HaKelim. So a person who indulges and ties themselves to Taivas Gashmim is essentially tying themselves to the Or of Shviras HaKelim. And from this, it's identified as two evils. That this causes a ma'aseh, this causes actual practical evil action, in that it strengthens and brings brings value and permanence to klipa. And we say that God will heal the broken of His people, the wounded of His people, and the brokenness is this brokenness of that we brought upon ourselves by tying ourselves to Taivas Gashmi, by tying ourselves to these broken wells. But says the Alter Rebbe that the word shever has two facets to it. There's the shever of shvira. There's the shever, which means broken. Then we also have the Yaakov saying to his sons, "Ki shever b'Mitzrayim," that there is grain in Mitzrayim, and in this sense, shever means hope. So in the times of Mashiach, the Navi is telling us that the Eibishter is going to turn our broken shever, which was us tying ourselves to these broken to this broken system, and He's going to give us the shever of hope. At which point it says that our wounds will then be healed. And it's explained in Medrash that this is a reference to the Bnei Shuach, which are white figs. So to explain, it says that the fruit that Adam Harishon ate, the Eitz Hadas, was Bnei Shuach, because it brought Shucha La'olam. And the Alter Rebbe explains, what is this word Shucha? So the word Shucha means to dig, means a pit, means holes. And so which coming back to this idea that the Eitz Hadas brought this investment of mankind in these broken pits and these broken holes, which is right. And then the other commentary of it, the other explanation of it, is lowliness, as in the phrase "Vayisach Adam v'yishbal ish," that man has become bowed down and man has become humble. So this is this second interpretation of the Shuach, that Adam, by eating from these by the Eitz Hadas, by investing in Klippa, Adam was brought down in stature. He was lowered in stature, and this began the ability of the Nefesh Bahamis to bring down the Nefesh Elokis, to get the body to be drawn after the Taivas of the Nefesh Bahamis. But when Mashiach comes, and the Chet Eitz Hadas will have a tikkun, at that point the Bnei Shuach will be reverted, and they will have the ability they will serve as the means by which we can understand how the Gilui is both, that the Gilui Mamela is able to occur lamata, is able to occur down here, that we'll understand how every facet of our physical world is infused with revelation, and how all of reality really is a lakus, which comes back to the same idea of the Ar Levanik Arachama, that when Mashiach comes, all of reality will be lifted up, and we will be able to appreciate this through the Bnei Shuach, through this same function that originally brought us down, will eventually bring us back up. The second mimer that we're learning is Lahave Mashakasa B'Haggadah Matzah Zu Shanu Eichlim. So this mimer is based on the phrase that we say in Haggadah, that we point to the matzah and we say, why do we eat this matzah? Because of the dough that did not have a chance to rise when we were leaving Mitzrayim, because we were sent out of Mitzrayim so quickly. And so the Alter Rebbe asks that the implication of this is that the only reason we're eating matzah and not eating chametz on Pesach is because of this historical event that the dough did not have the opportunity to rise. Whereas in reality, the Isser of chametz and the fact that they had to eat matzahs with the Karban Pesach was given 4 days before, when they were commanded with the Karban Pesach that they should eat, that the Karban Pesach had to be eaten with matzah and mar. Now, furthermore, we also have to understand the fact that the 7 days of Pesach that we don't eat chametz are a commemoration of Yetzias Mitzrayim. But Yetzias Mitzrayim, the Isser Chametz was only for one night. So on both fronts, we have to understand where exactly the Isser Chametz comes from, and the mitzvah of matzah, and what is the relationship between the historical event of Yetzias Mitzrayim and our mitzvah of Pesach today. Now, to understand this, we first need to talk about the idea of Yom Tov and the idea of Maidim L'Simcha. So on Yom Tov, we know that there's this unique link between Yom Tov specifically and Simcha, as we say during Halal, the way it's explained is that the reason we say V'samachta b'chagecha is that on Yom Tov there's a gilui of meichin de'ema. There's a gilui of bina, as we say in Halal, ema mashivi akar zabayis em habanim smecha, that the feminine, the ema, the mother, the ima, is causing us to experience simcha. That our awareness of the gilui of bina is what causes us to experience simcha. Masha'en ken on Shabbos, that Shabbos is a gilui of chachma. So on Shabbos, we don't have this quality of simcha. The quality of simcha is unique to Yom Tov. So the Alter Rebbe explains this by first introducing the idea of there being two forms of divine revelation. Some of God's creative energy is channeled into an Ila V'Olah form. And Ila V'Olah literally means cause and effect, and what it means what it actually means is that I can trace from one level to the next, to the next, to the next. And the example Alter Rebbe gives is from Seichel to Midas and from Midas to Machshava. That I can easily understand how my intellect produces emotions and how my emotions produce cogent thought, and I can see that chain from any given point in the chain. I can see upwards. I can see where it came from and and in a sense where it's headed. The second creative energy, the second divine energy, is Yesh Ma'ayin. And Yesh Ma'ayin literally means something from nothing, because Yesh Ma'ayin is a gilui that seems to come from nowhere, in that its source is not traceable. It's not naturally apparent. Now, in an Ila V'Olah system, when the Olol, the closer the Olol gets to its Ila, the closer that the lower level gets to the higher level, the greater it comprehends it. And this comprehension produces simcha, produces joy, much like the son of a king that is leaving his servitude, is leaving prison, and he delights in seeing his father. So the simcha it has to do with the fact that he knows his father, that he knows his makar, and that he's experiencing simcha when he reunites with his makar. So in a similar vein, when in the Ilu Ba'al system, the lower levels represent the Yerida, and the Yerida represents a Richuk, right, and a Hester Panim, right. That the lower we get in creation, the less apparent the divine revelation is, and the less apparent the source is. And so when we allow creation to leave the darkness of its reality and to experience its source, this produces a tremendous simcha. And this is the simcha of Yom Tov, that the akeres abayis nasa im abanim smecha, that the barren woman, right, the akeres abayis, the foundation of the house, which is also akara, which is also barren, becomes im abanim smecha, that becomes this mother of children that delights in those children. In that the Dur Yom Tif, we now begin to have a full comprehension of our source and where we came from, and this produces a tremendous level of joy through this experience of Bina. In that the natural course of things is that Malchus is meluvish in Bia, in Klipas Nega, and then a Yom Tif, a Malchus rises up and becomes this Eim Habana, or rise up to the level of Eim Habana, of Bina, of Asaga, of comprehension of Elokus, of our Inseif, and this produces this comprehension of, and this apprehension of our Inseif produces this tremendous joy, and the commensurate with the revelation is the joy. Much as the son, when he leaves prison, will delight in seeing the face of his father. The paradigmatic of this would be the neshama when it goes to Elam Haba. That a neshama that leaves its body, and leaves the trappings of the material world behind, rises up to the level of Gan Eden, and in Gan Eden it begins to be to understand its source, and to understand the R, and the more R the more R the neshama comprehends, the more delight that the neshama takes, and this is the idea of passing over the river that it says Binahar Ya'avru v'Ragel Sham Nismacha Bay, which means in the river they cross by foot, and there we rejoice with him. There we had the simcha that when we cross the Nahar, which the Nahar is what is the barrier between our world and Eden, and Nahar Hayetzme Eden, which is Bina. The neshama gets this opportunity to experience a lakus, and this produces a simcha, and this is the aliyah, going back to the pasuk Ya'abru B'Ragel, that literally means that we cross by foot, but the Alter Rebbe is interpreting to mean that the Shleisha Regalim, that when each of the three Yom Tevim happen, we get a greater understanding, greater appreciation of our source, and this produces simcha. But all of this is only Bina. This is all Meichen De'ema. This is all an experience of Bina. And this experience of Bina is also what the neshamas have in Gan Eden. But the Meichen De'aba, right, the experience of Chachma, so we say Chachma Me'ayin Timtza, because the Chachma is not open to comprehension. It's not something that can be It's not something that can be appreciated. Less machshavat tvisa beklal, and that and so the nature of this gilui, the nature of the gilui of chachma, is all about bittul. It's all about bittul hasaga. It's all about surrendering one's understanding. And this gilui happens on Shabbos. That the whole gilui of Shabbos is all about chachma. As we say that the whole of avodah of Shabbos is an avodah of chachma, is an avodah of Torah, ki eraisa mechachma nafkas. And the Alter Rebbe points out that even Torah is only a ha'ara of chachma. It emerges from chachma, masha'inkin, the chachma itself, which cannot be comprehended. And so this revelation is not subject to simcha, and it's not subject or tainug, because the nature of simcha and tainug is the ability to grasp, the ability to comprehend, the leaving from one place and going to a higher place, and that's something that the experience of chachma does not afford. So after a person, but within bina, there is an actual hasaga, masha'inkin in chachma, the gilui that occurs does not open itself up to hasaga, because the gilui is by its nature higher than hasaga. As we say that that as opposed to the gilui of bina, which allows the lower level to appreciate where it came from, chachma does not allow for a higher and lower, because there is no higher and lower within chachma. It's kichashecha ka'era, and the Alter Rebbe points out the significance of this kichashecha ka'era with the two chafs, and he says it's not just pshat that it's so bright that the darkness is like light, but that even the light is like darkness. That the two are one, as we say about keser. That keser is sometimes described as so bright that it's dark. And we say about chachma yashas cheshach sisrei, that he made darkness his hiding place, because at the level of ar that is revealed in chachma, there is no concept of comprehension. There's no concept of apprehension, and to the contrary, the only experience is a bittul hasaga, is a rejection of one's comprehension, and that's the only level at which appreciation can occur. And so at that level, we cannot say that there's simcha. We can't say that there's tainug, because there's simply no experience. It's less machshavat tvisa beklal, it's not in the lower level cannot consider the higher level to be an entity of significance, because the higher and lower levels are both equal.